Hey, what is going on, everybody out there? This is Jake James Lugo, Senior Editor here at thekoalition.com, and welcome to another episode of TK Spotlight, where I bring on different individuals that have done phenomenal work here in the gaming industry, or have done a lot of good for people that are interested in gaming and the like. So this episode's going to be cool. This episode's going to be really fun because I have someone really awesome with me today, the lovely Andrea Rene, also known as the busiest woman in the business, according to Greg Miller and such. So that's pretty cool. That's your new title now, which I think is dope. But Andrea, welcome. Thank you for chatting it up with me. How you been? What's going on?
I'm doing really well, thank you. It's been a crazy couple of months. Obviously, summer con season is always hectic, but we launched WhatsGoodGames in May, and so it's just been a total whirlwind since then. And then on top of that, I joined the Kind of Funny family as a contributor for Kind of Funny Games Daily, and that has been wonderful working with that whole team as well. So all in all, really can't complain. Things are going excellent.
Nice. Yeah, and we're going to get to a little bit of that all over the place because we want to talk a little bit about your work and stuff that you've done up to this point. The reason why I wanted to bring you on here also is because what I admire about all of, your portfolio and your backlog of work is your work ethic. I think that you have one of the best work ethics out there. And again, busiest woman in the business, I really agree with Greg on this because you've done a lot of different things, being a host, on camera, TV personality, executive producer or producer of different shows and content online for a variety of different places. Again, you've been on GameSpot TV, you've been on Playboy's Gamer Next Door, you've been on a variety of other shows, again, all over the place as guests, talking about games, talking about entertainment, talking about a whole bunch of different stuff. With that backlog of work or just that body of work, is it really important for someone that gets involved, whether it's gaming or any form of entertainment, to really have such a diverse kind of, array of different types of content they've been involved with?
I don't think it's necessary, but I think it helps. My history over the course of my career has been, very different than a lot of other people's careers in this industry. A lot of people find a single outlet, or maybe we're worth two or three outlets over the same time period. And I just found that I wanted to get involved in as many projects as possible. I also had the unfortunate luck, like a lot of us do who work in new media, that a lot of the brands that I have previously worked with just don't exist anymore or have been shuttered, have been closed down. I've seen my fair share of layoffs. It's, sadly all too common these days, especially since, if you look at the course of my career, it really started right before the Great Recession happened here in the United States, and then has gone through current day. And like the political and economic climate has been so tumultuous, to put it mildly, that, I'm very grateful for the time that I have had at as many outlets as I have. And one of my biggest, most important things that I stress to people who are looking at getting into video games is the power of networking. The reason I've had so many appearances on a variety of different platforms is because I like to make friends with everybody. I think that we work in an industry full of really talented, fantastic people, and I have been very fortunate enough that they have invited me to come guest on their shows. And when they come calling, I say yes.
Yeah, I think that's very important. That hits right on the next point I wanted to touch on, is collaboration, because you've been involved with many different projects, many different outlets, many different individuals. Even now, WhatsGoodGames is a big collaboration between you and three other phenomenal ladies that have been part of this industry. I mean, how important is collaboration, not just, for getting into the industry or just, any other industry for that matter, but how good is it as far as like making good content? How important is it, for the craft itself, for people that want to actually do stuff that goes beyond the level of quality of what they've seen out there?
Collaboration is incredibly important for continuing your education. A lot of creators, sometimes don't stop to think, well, there's always more for me to learn. And I think that is the falsehood. I think you can never stop educating yourself and never stop learning about new techniques, new types of content, new ways to create content, and especially new ways to do everything that's on like the back end of content creation, whether that's management or asset creation, social media techniques. There's always something that you can learn from somebody else. And the only way that you're really going to do that is by collaborating. Collaborating allows you to take a look inside the creative process for other people who are out doing what you're doing.
True. Now, as someone that, again, you've done a lot of different work, as a freelancer, you've done a lot of different work by not really sticking to one outlet like you mentioned before. Do you feel like that is a little bit easier to not only choose the different projects you want to work with, but also to reach like a different level of quality with a variety of different work, as opposed to just being tied or even being tethered to one specific place, whether it's a website, whether it's a particular organization, a brand, or whatever it might be?
I definitely don't think it's easier. It's certainly much more challenging to be a contractor, to be freelance, than it is to be a salaried employee at an outlet. When you're at an outlet, you have the security of knowing, okay, my outlet is definitely going to be going to these shows throughout the year. We're going to be covering these games. We're going to have partnerships with these studios. You don't really have to go chase down a lot of those opportunities because it's inherently built into your editorial plan. Or at least if you're at an outlet that has, their act together, they have the foresight to plan a lot of that stuff out down the road. But when you're contract and freelance, sometimes you'll work with a client or with a partner just for one opportunity, or sometimes you'll work with them for several opportunities. And then maybe, those opportunities end and they shift, strategies, and they want to, work with somebody else or work with a different company. And then you have to go look for the next thing. I mean, when you're a contractor or a freelancer, it's all about how much hustle you have and how hard you want to work to create opportunities for you and the kind of content that you want to make.
True. So obviously, again, you've been doing this for quite some time. It was a very different industry years ago. I remember even we talked years ago when I was still just doing stuff on YouTube. It was a very different industry back then. Now, I feel like a lot of stuff outside of like just writing or posting up video content on specific websites and doing other things, all over the place related to just one outlet. There's been other factors that have kind of been thrown into the mix, specifically Patreon. I feel like I'm starting to see a lot of different places and even a lot of different individuals that worked at specific outlets go to Patreon and use that as their means, not only to just forward their work, but also as their means to live. I mean, how intricate or how important has Patreon become, like, at least in your eyes, as far as being part of the work or being part of the craft or anything of the sort?
It's an interesting question. I don't think Patreon as a platform has become super important. I think ultimately what it comes down to is Patreon is important because they are the connective tissue between the creators and their audience. And that's why they're important, not because the platform itself is doing the work, but because it allows, people like us at What's Good Games to directly connect with the people who want to consume our content. People that want to support us but don't know how, or maybe they would rather have a monthly subscription to our Patreon page instead of watching, pre-roll videos on top of our content, or looking at clickable, pop-up ads on our website, things like that. And so I think what Patreon has really done to revolutionize what, not only what What's Good Games is doing, but what other people in the space like Easy Allies or Danny O'Dwyer with No Clip, or, the guys at Kind of Funny has done, is it allows them to say, hey, we want to make this kind of content, and this is how we're going to deliver it to you. Are you in? And if you're in, that's awesome. You could pay us over here instead of, paying us all these other ways. And what it does is it allows content creators to really focus on the content and not on having to satisfy some, superficial or artificial ways to actually pay people. Because that's one of the, most frustrating things about being in this business and watching the transition of digital media from when I first began and YouTube was just starting out to where it is now, where there's multiple platforms from Periscope and Snapchat and Instagram, and going, hey, you know what? The audience is getting used to getting this content for free. But you know what? It's not free to make.
True.
Cameras cost money, making graphics costs money, audio equipment, website hosting fees, all of this stuff costs money. And it's sometimes a frustrating conversation to have with your audience to say, I know that you're used to getting this for free on YouTube, but you know what? Like, if you want me to keep making it, then I have to pay for all of these bills somehow.
Exactly. And I mean, you could even extend that now to YouTube, which I feel like is one of the biggest game changers for a lot of different things. I mean, YouTube back then, years ago, was not the same beast as it is now. It's gone through a variety of evolutions and a variety of changes and things that not only just on the back end of with the website itself, but even just in the way that people consume content and the way that people, look for different types of content in a variety of different places. I mean, has it been kind of intimidating or even been a little bit scary trying to kind of adapt with how places like YouTube have changed, or again adapting to like different forms of social media or implementing that into the content that you create?
Scary maybe isn't the right word that I would use. Exhausting is maybe the word that I would use.
True, very true.
I always tell people when I have this conversation about the changing landscape of digital media that it's like hitting a moving target. It constantly changes because the way that people like Facebook and YouTube craft their algorithm changes. How you're supposed to design, the certain framework of your content, whether that be how to title videos, which tags to use, how to make your thumbnail, all of that is constantly shifting and changing too. So you get a set of best practices that will then be rewritten 6 months down the road. It makes it challenging to create a successful programming strategy. You have to constantly be vigilant in keeping an eye on where the market is going and what the platform is doing.
True. So now I want to talk a little bit about What's Good Games. You said you guys had started that up back in May, which is very cool. Again, I've been a fan since, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other people listening to this have also been fans of What Good Games. I mean, you yourself are there. You're also there with your friends Alexa Ray Correa, Brittany Baumricher, and as well as Christine Steimer. And I think I pronounced her name wrong.
You did.
I always mess that up. Bro, I always mess that up.
She's sadly used to it.
I feel like next time I see her, she's gonna get so pissed at me when I see her. But
sorry to interrupt you. Can you hear the gardener in the background? I didn't realize they were going to be here today.
No, I don't hear anything.
Okay, perfect. Because it's really loud over here, so as long as it's not coming through the mic.
Nah, you're good. But like I was saying, again, you're over there at What's Good Games. You're doing content with your friends. But one of the interesting things about the four of you is that you all have different expertise and different type of experience in various parts of the gaming industry, or just various parts of the industry and, content creation and stuff. I mean, you're obviously a host and a producer. You've done stuff with Game Trailers, Yahoo Esports, GameStop TV. Alexa was over at Polygon. She was at GameSpot at one point. Brittany has done a lot of stuff on YouTube. Christine has done stuff at IGN and PlayStation. You guys have a variety and a wide, diverse kind of set of expertise. I mean, when you guys were coming together to form that group, or at least putting together the ideology and the kind of, the path that what you want to set for What's Good Games, was that really at the forefront of what you were thinking, or was it more just trying to get together with your friends and just make something happen?
The genesis was certainly getting together with friends to make something happen, but the business person in me looked at it and said, hey, if I want this to be something more than me kicking it with, the girls once a week talking about games on a podcast, if we want to grow this brand into a business, we have to start thinking about it like a business. And so when you think about it like that, you have to learn, how do I sell this concept? How do I sell the expertise that we have and the uniqueness of, the chemistry that we have, but also, prove to people like, hey, we're not just some girls getting together on a weekly basis, which anybody can do now. Anybody and everybody can have their own show with where digital media is today. But not all shows are going to be created equal. And so it was up to us to say, hey, how are we going to differentiate ourselves from the thousands of other video game podcasts that are out there, and how are we going to stand up next to some of the biggest competition that's in the market these days so that we can go toe to toe with some of these, these big guys with their podcasts. And when you start to look at it like that, it really changes your perspective on what am I creating.
So with a lot of people, myself included, a lot of us have our channels or have our types of content that we do solo, that we make them ourselves, and we're making a lot of the decisions here and there. As it's definitely got to be different working with a group, especially with a group of more than like 2 or 3 people. In your case, it's the 4 of you that make the different content for What's Good Games. You guys get together, you talk on podcasts, you do different random videos. I think you guys do it like every single week or every single day. You guys post up a different type of topic, and each of you give your opinion about it, or at least give some sort of stance on what the topic is. Is it sometimes get a little bit difficult to either compromise or to either, come together and discuss what types of stuff you're going to do with the channel every single day or every single week?
It does become a little bit of a challenge at points, but, our main show is the podcast, which gets uploaded on Friday mornings. And then we do specific content generally for social media purposes throughout the week. And sometimes it does. Sometimes you find yourself asking each other, what are we going to talk about this week? Other weeks, there's plenty to talk about. It's one of the challenges of being a mix of both topical content and also evergreen content. Something that we could record today and then upload a year from today, and it would still be relevant. So when you're making those creative decisions, you really kind of got to look at the bigger picture and say, hey, do I want this piece of video to be great just for this week, or do I want people to be able to find it 6 months from now and still be able to enjoy it?
I can definitely understand that. That's like super hard for a lot of people, especially because, again, you want to capitalize on trends. You want to be able to give something that everybody's going to constantly go back to. That could be difficult over time. Now, I want to talk a little bit about gaming. I want to talk about the game industry itself. I mean, obviously, you and me both, we love video games. We love the industry. We love everything about it. Tell me, in your opinion, at least from your eyes, what's the best and the worst thing about the game industry, or just gaming in general right now in 2017 going into 2018 soon?
Oh my gosh, that's a giant question.
Too big.
The best thing about the gaming industry is that there are more types of games to play now than ever before. Not only are there just the sheer volume of games has increased, but the diversity of experiences, from walking simulators to, like FMV, to these crazy open world first-person shooter games, to, little indie murder mysteries. Like, the diversity of the types of gaming experiences out there right now is really phenomenal. And I think that that's one of the best, or the best thing about the gaming industry at this moment. I think the worst thing about the gaming industry at the moment is, despite the fact that we have all of those diverse gaming opportunities to really have not only the developers as artists express themselves, but also players to find representation in the games, we still are pigeonholed into this concept of what gaming is from when it was created probably 20, 30 years ago. This idea that video games is for this one type of person and that's it. That people who identify as gamers are only seen as this one archetype of personality. And I hope that that changes. I know it is starting to change, and those conversations are starting to happen. And the word gamer is not being seen as a dirty word,
True.
As much anymore as it maybe used to have been. But I think that, it's only going to be the worst part of the business for so long, because we are making strides to make that better.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is changing rapidly now, more so than ever, like throughout the years. Again, a lot of different stuff over the last 5, maybe 7 years has changed up with different people, fresh minds and fresh faces coming into the industry, mixing things up, as well as also taking a lot of different risks and taking a lot of different changes that we're so accustomed to for like many, many years or decades prior, or console generations prior, that now it's good to kind of change things up a little bit. But to kind of offshoot that, what's one thing you want to see more of? I mean, besides that, what you just mentioned, what's one thing you want to see more of kind of like implemented into the industry, or just implemented into gaming as a whole?
I would like to, what do I want to see more of? I mean, personally, I would like to see, more female characters in games, more female protagonists. We've had a really great year for them here in 2017, and I think that's excellent. I think
a lot of real good ones.
Yeah, I think we'll see more of that. Talking about the diversification of gaming experiences, I think, there's a lot of room for representation of not only gender, but race, religion, other types of cultural signifiers, different experiences, people that have a different life experience than you. I recently was on a panel where we talked about representation in games, and I spoke about how there isn't enough representation for people with disabilities in games, and how that is something that we're just starting to see being talked about. It's like, oh yeah, we never really had a protagonist whose disability was prominently displayed or part of their character development as like a lead protagonist. We've had several people in supporting roles. The one that I picked that I thought was particularly poignant was Joker in Mass Effect 2.
True.
But I think that would be really interesting to see. I think people broadening their cultural and worldview based off a game they play is nothing but a good thing. I mean, do I want to see people that look like me? Of course I do. But do I want to also see people that are different than me and have a different life experience than me? Absolutely.
I agree. I think it just to have a better view, a better perspective on the full picture, or at least, get exposure to other different things kind of gives you a better outlook on everything as a whole. And also, I think it works well for gaming as a medium, as an art form, as the ability to kind of be a little expressive in one way or another, not just the traditional same thing all the time. I mean, if that was the same way with like other forms of art, we probably have like the same type of paintings all over the place, or the same type of buildings all over the place. It'd be a little bit boring and bland. But
exactly.
Yeah. So here's another good question as we start to wind this down. Tell me, with all that being said, with everything we've talked about up to this point, and the mindset that you have right now at this point in time, where do you want to see What's Good Games go next? I mean, what is the type of stuff that you ladies want to do now at this point? I mean, do you guys want to kind of move towards doing a specific big thing to kind of, make an impact in a certain way in the industry, or is there other plans or other types of goals you ladies want to achieve?
Well, we have a lot of, pie in the sky ideas about where we would like the brand to go, but in the immediate, we really just want to make more video content. Right now, the focus has been on the podcast because that's where the majority of our audience consumes our content. Even though the video stuff seems to be more visual, more visually present when you look at our social media accounts and things like that. I mean, far and away, more people are listening to what we're doing than ever before. And we love making that content. We want to make more of that content, but we also we have a lot of cool ideas for video since a lot of us have done video in the past. So I think really what we want is just to make more stuff. And what exactly that stuff is, we haven't quite nailed down. We have some fun ideas about where we want to go, but as far as anything beyond that, it's been our focus to just take.
So here's the final question that I really wanted to ask to kind of round it off and, put a nice bow on everything. What is one thing that you would suggest or what you would tell somebody that is looking on the outside, looking in towards the industry, or is thinking about getting into this type of craft? What is one piece of advice that you would give to them that can help them out, that'll stick with them for the long term?
One piece of advice. Okay, I'll try to limit it to just one thing. One piece of advice I would give is make sure you are doing something every day to advance yourself in your career. Chris Rock famously said in one of his stand-up routines, the difference between a job and a career is that a job has too many hours in the day and a career doesn't have enough hours in the day. And he put it together into a really funny story. But at the end of it, that was the takeaway. And that is 100% true when you finally find a career that you really love. And if you want to get into video games media, it has to be because it's going to be a career and not because it's going to be a job. And the reason I say that is because there are just too many people who want to work in this business, and the competition is fierce. And if you don't come in with your A game, willing to work harder than everybody right next to you, then you're never going to make it.
I agree. I think that's very good advice. I think that's very important because there is definitely a lot of people, and I think also, like you said, there are a lot of people I think that look at this as just a job, and I feel like that could be a little bit detrimental sometimes for everybody else, because some people just look at it and they don't have the passion or the care for it as much, and it kind of just it doesn't make it as exciting to be a part of, or at least that interesting to be a part of. But also I feel like just there's just a lot of people that just don't have the same care for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because I haven't run across too many of those people because, quite frankly, as a job, it doesn't really pay that well. And so if you want to just have a job and it's just going to be a job for you, I mean, go find an industry that's going to pay you a heck of a lot more than video games does.
Definitely. True. Well, with that being said, though, Andrea, thank you. I appreciate it. It's awesome chatting it up with you. Where can everybody find you? I mean, you're at What's Good Games now on the YouTube channel. You're also on Twitter. Where else can everybody find you?
Yeah, so Twitter is the best place to find out what I'm up to across all the different places that I'm guest hosting on or regularly hosting on. So that's at Andrea Rene on Twitter. You can find me on Kind of Funny Games daily every week. We live stream on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames. You can also see it on their YouTube channel or podcast services. What's Good Games airs every Friday morning, and we also have additional video content on our Facebook page, facebook.com/whatsgoodgames. And I'm not sure when this is going to air, but if you guys went to PAX or are going to PAX, we had a panel there, or we are doing an event there with Life is Strange, and you can find out all of those details over on our website, WhatsGoodGames.com.
That'll be awesome. I wish I could go to see that because that sounds like it'd be fun to check out. But there's going to be links to all that stuff, guys, in the description box below for all you guys to go directly check it out. Give them some love, show them some support, say what's up, give them a nice owl hug, all that jazz. But Andrea, thank you. I really appreciate it. This is us because this is the second time me and you have talked like this. The first time years ago. It's way too long ago.
I know, it was so long ago.
So this is a cool treat for me, but can't wait to see what you girls do next. Can't see what you do next. Can't see what other cool stuff comes from all of it. It'd be awesome. But thank you. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So again, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of TK Spotlight. Make sure you guys leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the Koalition's YouTube channel for all our videos related to gaming and a bunch of other cool stuff. Leave us a comment down below. Tell me exactly who you guys want me to bring on to the show next. Let me know any suggestions or cool types of little ideas and topics that you guys want us to bring up. But with that being said, I will talk to you guys again very soon. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.